Hello, Steve. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
I love it. I love your hat in particular. For those that are watching, like I want to get my husband to wear more hats like that. So maybe I'm going to show him a picture and we can encourage him to do that. It reminds me of our time back in Italy where a lot of we saw a lot of people wearing those types of hats.
Well, they're very comfortable and convenient, and they keep the sun off.
They do. Exactly. We gotta protect our epidermis for sure. Um, well, Steve, we always kick off the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast with the guests with some words of encouragement for family caregivers. So I'd love to get your thoughts. These are some sayings and things that I have collected over the years. And now it's available if somebody wants to create their own jar, they can find that on the site. But your episode's inspiration says, have no fear of perfection, you'll never reach it. And that's a quote by Salvador Dali. So have no fear of perfection, you'll never reach it. Are you a perfectionist, Steve?
I'm not, but I like to get things as close to right as possible. And sometimes being a perfectionist takes a whole lot more trouble than getting it done good enough. And
Exactly.
many times we really just need to accomplish things without overstressing by trying to hit the level of perfection. So it's a great quote because we're not going to find perfection on this planet. So we need to do the best that we can and be happy with what we can accomplish.
Yeah. And caregivers, like, listen, I collected a lot of these because they were speaking to me, but we are juggling a lot of competing priorities, and there's not enough time really to just kind of essentially focus on one thing. And one of the sayings that I used to self-talk myself a lot with related to this is done is better than perfect. So just crossing it off and being done with it is better than perfect.
Yes, I agree. And the extra bit you get to get out of perfection doesn't benefit anybody except for the stress monsters.
Exactly. We don't need to feed those stress monsters anything else, which they get enough to eat already. So,
Right.
well, Steve, I'd love to hear a little bit about your caregiving story. Can you share a little bit about, your time when you were a family caregiver and what that was like for you?
Well, so my mother, who was 91, just passed away on December 18th.
Oh, I'm
And I
so
was her
sorry.
caregiver. I was not the only person that provided care, but I was the one responsible for her care overall and getting helpers in to do things and take care of her needs. And I spent a number of years doing that. And uh, I I was a caregiver for my father, uh, kind of ancillary. His wife was a nurse and she had to go to work, and so she needed extra help and support. So I provided the care for that, and I it's really doing God's work to take care of your parents and those people who have raised you and given you life, and and it's our job at the end of life for to help as many of those folks as we can smoothly enjoy the remaining days and
Mm,
in the level of transition. And so I'm proud that I got to be a caregiver as I did, and I have a relationship with my mother that would not have occurred if it wasn't for my caregiving capability and willingness. And so it's just a beautiful thing all around, and that's what the world should be focused on, the beautiful things all
yeah.
around.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it sounds like you had a close relationship with your parents. I love that you recognize that you had a primary caregiving role, but yet you weren't the solo caregiver, which I would never advise anybody to be a solo caregiver. That's a recipe for disaster. So I'm glad you had a team of support available to you. As a family caregiver for your parents, like where did you find support and resources for you? Not necessarily on how to provide better care for them, but how to mitigate burnout and how to find the support and resources that you needed.
Well, to be honest, I was quite busy. I have a couple of different business ventures that I have going, and I didn't have time to think about it. You just do what you do, and you plug on through, and in the end, you look and the smoke is cleared, and everybody's okay. So now I can take a breath, and then we do it again, and it's an ongoing thing, as you know,
Mm,
with ongoing support for those in need of caregiving.
yes.
It never
Well,
ends. Well,
You
it does eventually,
you
but in this,
survive on
this case,
adrenaline for a lot
sure.
of it, um and you're a problem solver, a creative problem solver who's constantly learning and figuring things out. And I think we put a lot of trust in ourselves that we can do that. We can problem solve. So I hope that caregivers listening realize like all of the skills that they have when they're caregiving is, with the researching and advocating and problem solving and decision making. Like there's a lot that goes on in a caregiving journey. Um, and I know that started to become an expert in falls, like routine falls with your folks became kind of part of your life. What were some of those early falls like for you? Like what did those look like for your mom or your dad?
Well, my mother had been falling for a number of years, and some
What was
reason
her
she was a problem.
diagnosis, Steve? What
So
did
she fell before she had a diagnosis. She would
Oh,
lose her balance and fall over, and that happened for years. And as she got older, it happened more regularly. And during one period in 2013, 2014, the transition, she fell 6 times in 4 weeks.
oh my
And
goodness.
in 5 of those times, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and answered the phone and ran over to her house and picked her up and got her on her way. And the last of those times, I wasn't able to be there because I was out of town. She had to
Mm-hmm.
call 911, and the fire department came and they broke into her house because it was locked. And then they
Oh,
find this woman on the floor, messed herself on the way to the bathroom because that's where she was going when she fell. And she was the most humiliated person on the planet at that point. And she swore up and down that she's never going to call the fire department again. She'll just wait till I come back to town to get her up off the
oh,
floor.
oh
But
no.
that's not a safe answer. And so that coupled with my dad, who had was falling because he had osteoporosis or osteoarthritis, and he had knees that were bone on bone, but they wouldn't
Mm,
fix them. They couldn't fix them because he was obese and he couldn't maybe not survive the surgery, and they don't want to put people at risk. So he had to live with the fact that he would just walk through the house and out of nowhere a knee would go out and he'd end up on the floor, and
yes.
that was okay until he got into his mid 70s when he could no longer pick himself up. And then we would struggle with how will we do that, and we got a Hoyer lift that was prescribed, and that lasted a couple of times because he was
Explain
on
what
the
a Hoyer
floor.
lift is in case somebody
Hoyer
doesn't know
lift
what that is.
is like an engine hoist that you take engines out of cars with, and you jack them up off the floor and you put them on a harness, and you roll them over and you jack them up and you try to put them into a place where they can stand up, and it's kind
And
of
they're
harrowing,
airborne.
and they're
Yeah.
airborne and swinging, and it's a
My
scary
mom
sort
was
of thing.
not, she didn't want anything. She tried, we did it a couple times. We wanted to have one for her. That was not going to happen. My mom was,
Well,
yeah.
we had one, and then it was sat there useless because he would not use it, and so that led us to calling the fire department to pick him up, and he fell so many times because in the middle of the night he'd need to go to the bathroom, and he'd wake up and try to jump out of bed and go to the bathroom like he'd done for all of his other 77 years of life.
Right.
But his edema in his feet and his diabetes and his other things caused him to not be able to really balance and take care of those things. So the first thing he'd do is jump out of bed and end up on the floor. And that happened so
So
regularly
yeah,
that
a
the
lot.
fire department picked him up by his arms and his shoulders, and he became black and blue and bruised from that. So now, on top of the fact that he's falling and we have to get him up, he's screaming and hollering in pain because the muscle space, the soft body tissue that was being used to pick him up was in pain and uncomfortable. So it just
Yes.
between my
You were
mother and my
spiral.
father.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm assuming the fire department is trained on how to pick people up correctly because of course there is a method to that where you can,
And they
reduce
do that
injury.
thousands of times a day all over the
Yes.
country.
Your
There's
poor
falls.
dad.
Yeah, so it
Yes.
was, but between my mother and my father, I had to come up with a solution. They both were falling regularly,
How
and
many falls do you think that you've had to over the years? Like how many falls
oh,
for your
dozens
parent?
and dozens, dozens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And then, the 911, I know we used to have to get my mom, both my parents were large people. My mom would have the falls and we would have to call a non-emergency assist, right? Or is that what we
lift
call it?
assist, yeah, yep,
Yes, a lift assist because we could not physically get my mom off the floor. And, I've witnessed other people in my family that falls can be really detrimental to people. Of course, they break a hip, and things can start spiraling for older adults there. Did you try some of the fall prevention tips? Did you have anything there that you would say like
sure.
to
Well,
prevent the
we spent
fall?
We spend $1 billion a year teaching people all over the country how to not fall and how to make their houses safer and how to make it
Mm,
so that they have less opportunity to fall. But that doesn't change the fact that people
that they
lose balance
fall.
when they
I
fall.
know. What are
They
some of the things though, just so people are listening, like what are some of the like
Well,
common things?
grab bars in the bathroom, grab bars down along the hallway, things that, no, no throw rugs because people, there's something, they're a tripping hazard.
Hmm.
Lots of sweet things that you can do to minimize the opportunity to fall, but falls come from losing balance and tripping and missteps. And that is going to occur no matter how much you train them, no matter how much you modify your house. You can't change the fact that humans lose balance, a little bit of neuropathy in your feet, a little edema in your feet, a little osteoporosis or a little osteoarthritis in your knee, and you become a falling victim. And
Yeah.
it's not falling so much to get you. 90+% of all falls do not result in a medical emergency kind of an injury. And
Okay.
while we do get a lot of hips and a lot of leg and arm
Or
breaks for people that
concussion or
fall,
something.
the
Yeah.
concussions, that's really the smallest portion of the falls. You don't hear about most of the falls. Most of the falls, they just slip out of bed when they're trying to get into the bathroom. And it didn't hurt them, but they just need help up. It's
Yeah.
getting up that's the problem. So the problem is, how do we get up? And I didn't have an answer for that. There was nothing that was practical for people at home. So between my mother and my father's needs, and I swear God pushed my mother down those 6 times now in that 2 months, because he knew that if I was angry enough about having to do this, that I would find a way. And in fact, I created a machine to solve that problem so she could get up on her own. And in fact, what a joyful day that was when a machine that I installed in my mother's home so that she could recover herself after a fall. She didn't fall for 9 months after I put that machine in. But
Wow.
when she did, she called me up and she said, Steve, you got to come get me. I fell down again. But then she called me moments later and said, Steve, never mind. I scooted over to that machine you put in the hallway and I picked myself up. You don't have to come get me. Well, she fell about 2 weeks later, she fell again. And she called me up excited and said, Hey, Steve, I'm just calling to let you know that I fell again, but I scooted over that machine and I got up by myself. So you don't have to come get me. I just want you to know that that was so helpful
Uh,
because I got up by myself. And let me tell you, the big difference in life at that point was she walked on eggshells as she moved around through her house because she was so afraid of falling and having to call 911 or having to call somebody to come over. She wasn't comfortable in her own home. But after she found that she could get up herself, the weight was lifted from her shoulders. She walked around her apartment without
yes. It gave her
fearing anymore.
confidence
It
and
gave her confidence
yeah,
and
it
her
diminished her
psychological
fear.
position.
I love that. I don't love that she's falling, but I love that she kept her independence and had a solution. And I've witnessed that with my mom. I'm sure she was bedridden the last 2 years. I mean, there just became a day where she could not like get herself up anymore, even from a bedside commode. Uh, but I'd wonder if she had the confidence of not tripping and stuff. Had she been more active. Plus, she would wait so long. It's like, and then it's like an emergency to get to the bathroom. And when you're running running, I'm
Right.
using that loosely, but hurrying to get somewhere,
More
yes,
likely to incur a fall.
you're likely to
It is.
incur a problem. I know it has informed my health and happiness of my parents, caring for my parents. And I am definitely, fearful of like both of them were morbidly obese. So, very conscious of that, but also like of the mobility. So still do my strength training twice a week and stuff so that that I can get myself, off the floor. So I think, as we get older, our muscles start to deteriorate. So I know it's important for us to do
Stay
you lift
active.
some weights or what do you do to stay active?
I exercise. I do a lot of walking and I do a lot of hard guitar playing. I'm a guitar player, so I spend a lot of time for upper body with guitar and I do a lot of walking for health. And
I love.
after watching people deteriorate, it becomes important, a priority to stay healthy so that we don't have to live in those conditions with those
No.
fears.
No, I mean, that's why Happy Healthy Caregiver started because I was, I saw what that looked like and did not want that same story for me to happen. Going back to your indie lift though, Steve, like I mean, are you an inventor? Like, and you mentioned your guitar play, like, how did you start this? Like, how did you start inventing something?
Well, I realized there was a problem and I couldn't get my mother up her, uh, I, she couldn't get herself up, so but I could. I needed to solve the problem so that she could do it herself. And then with my father, he was married to a registered nurse, and she was fully capable and knew everything she needed to do, and we did all the sorts of things we could, but she couldn't get him up off the floor either. So I realized that I could solve this problem. I looked all over the world for a solution, something to pick up people, and there didn't seem to be one that existed. In fact, there was not one that existed. So I thought, well, I'll just make one. And I've been a product developer in the telecommunications area for
Okay.
30 years of technology
So
career.
you're not afraid of machines and getting your hands
Not afraid
dirty.
of machines. I can solve this problem, and I did. And so it took us a couple of iterations to get it right. But between 2014, when I started focusing on this problem, the first couple of months of 2014, we then started talking around with folks and realized that, wow, my parents are not the only two people on the planet that fall down. And if
No.
we had a solution that would be helpful for them, it would be helpful for many, many more. So that's when the idea was spawned to create this company called IndieLift and products that were going to help people up off the floor. And since October 1st of 2014, I've been full-time employed and working for the IndieLift effort. And now we have literally helped tens of thousands of people avoid their falling problem or avoid their getting up problem by
Yeah.
having a machine that they can get up now. And so we do that all over the planet right now. And we're very proud of that. We're now at a major breakthrough point in that we were manufacturing things in America, and it's very expensive to manufacture in America. Consequently, our prices were had to be high,
Mm.
and so just to recover our costs, and we couldn't help as many people, and it got too expensive, and so we've gone offshore with manufacturing, and now we have a much more competitive product that is a great value because we can get you up off the floor, and it's only literally a few $100s to have this tool that will help you day after day and be there for you whenever you need it for 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 years to come. We build a machine that's intended to be last for 20 years, and it does, and people use them for year after year. My mother died in December 18th, and after 9 years, she used that machine 3 times in the last 2 months of her life before she finally. But
Mm.
her goal was to stay at home because everybody wants to stay at home, and
Everybody wants to stay at home, which,
we kept her at home.
is called aging in place. I didn't know it was like it had a term. But and with 12,000, it used to be 10,000 baby boomers every day, but now it's 12,000 according to AARP baby boomers every day turning age 65. Now, disease and age are not synonymous, but we have an older generation living longer with medical things and stuff. And so the chances of us things falling apart, just like you would like a car that you're using, we're going to need some help. And so I'm with you though. Most people do want to age in place, and this is a great way for them
He's
to
safe
be
at
able to
home.
safe at home and be independent with that. So you call it the people picker upper, but I'm also thinking it's the caregiver back saver.
Well, in fact, so the object was to get the folks off of the floor on their own, and so we created a self-operable machine. And for those folks who have somebody around that can be a caregiver, it just makes it even that much simpler. But now we don't injure the fallen or the people that are caring for them because we have a machine that does the work. And
Amazing.
every time you have something that might cause a problem with humans, somebody comes up with a better answer so that we can make it a little less painful and a little less hurtful. And in this case, we found a way to do that to pick people up, and keeping them at home is important. Falling and not being able to get up is one of the primary reasons people are forced into convalescent care.
Yeah,
And everybody wants to stay at home. And if you give them the right tools to stay at home, they
it's
can do that
possible.
for a long time. And
Nice.
that's our
Yeah.
goal.
Is there a weight limit for the indie lift?
Well, so we have multiple machines with multiple
Okay.
capacities, but
So you have a
our
bariatric version, which I didn't know
yeah,
bariatric was the nice way of saying like for larger people, bariatric
yes.
wheelchairs. Like these are all the terms you have to learn as a caregiver. We're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So,
Well,
but
so we have our base model machines now support people up to 400 pounds. So
okay.
we have our consumer machines do that for 400 pounds. We have commercial machines that support people up to 500 and 600 pounds. Although there's far fewer of those folks than there are in the 400-pound range. But we do
Mm,
know there's a lot of folks over 300 pounds now, and So our base machines have a capacity of 400 pounds, which picks up
Nice.
96% of the people on the planet.
Amazing, amazing. And like you said, like it could be a two-person, like if you feel more comfortable there, but it's designed for someone to do this with the remote independently.
Right. So the idea is to keep you at home independently. And if your spouse has to go to work, or by the way, or if your spouse has moved on to the next chapter of eternity, you want to stay home. Nobody wants to go away. And so to be able to keep you at home safely by giving you a tool that you can scoot over to and pick yourself up is a great answer. And you can read reviews from people who use our products and think it's just the greatest thing because it's kept them safely at home. And nobody wants to go to care facilities.
No, no. Not as their first choice for sure. No. And the is one of the things I remember about the Hoyer lift, which I mean, there's really no comparison. Like the airborne thing,
It's
that
scary.
was a hard no for my mom. But what you could also not use it on certain types of flooring. So
Right.
Indie Lift works on all types of flooring.
Yes, all types of flooring. It's a small little device. It's the size of a vacuum cleaner, kind of, and you
So
can
it's
roll it.
portable. You could,
It's
if you were
portable.
going on vacation, you could take it with you.
You could, and you can roll it around anywhere in the house, and you can pick somebody up. They can pick themselves up wherever they happen to fall. And so the while people who live alone, typically that are senior or disabled, they don't have very large homes. They find a central location. In fact, most people fall between the bed and the bathroom because
Yeah.
that's the most likely time. They're waking up in the middle of the night. They need to go to the bathroom, and they slip out of bed as they're trying to get to the bathroom, and that's a really common occurrence.
It's
So
dark. Yeah.
many people just place their indie lift in between their bed and the bathroom, and that's where it lives. And whenever they happen to fall, they can scoot over to it and pick themselves up and get on with their day. And that's the beauty of the project, is that we can get on with our day without it
Mm.
interfering with everything, without calling the neighbors, without calling the family, without calling the fire department, without calling anybody else. We're now able to just get on with our day. And it's nobody else's business that we fell down, but we got back up.
Yes. Yes. It's lovely. And I know that you go to a lot of expos. I'm sure you get a lot of great feedback from folks that are,
Sure.
yeah. What are some of the things people say?
Well, we were recently at the Abilities Expo, which is a, a conference, kind of a place for people who are trying to support their family members or themselves with these disabilities, and they provide tools. Everybody there is trying to help people be safer at home in one way or another, and it's very satisfying when you go to a conference like this and the staff that are helping the people understand what we do come and tell me, well, this guy stopped by. He says he bought one of these things 3 years ago. He uses that thing every other week, and he's the happiest guy going. And he just wanted to say thank you for making this machine because it gave him the ability to stay at home. And that's what most people want. So
Yeah.
we get that over and over again. And every time that happens, sends a chill up my spine and I get goosebumps and I just want to help more people because there's more people that need it, and we can alleviate a lot of suffering. Because if you ever
Yeah.
tried to get up and couldn't, you would realize how frustrating, and you will sweat, you will work hard, you do everything you can to try to get off the floor and may not be successful. So now you're not only still on the floor, but you're totally exhausted, and it's just harrowing. And I watched that occur over and over again, and that was enough to make me do something about it. And here we are today.
Yeah, here you are today. I love that. I love your story, Steve. It's so amazing. You know, there's a lot of caregivers who have experienced different things, that have invented things to help other people. And so hopefully this podcast will help get the word out. And you are very kind too, because for your consumer models, you are offering the Happy Healthy Caregiver community $100 off with a code HHC100. So we will definitely link to Indie Lift in the show notes where people can watch the video. If you know somebody that this could help them age in place better, you know, surely send this podcast to them so that they can learn more about it and take advantage of that discount. But thank you for offering a discount to the community.
We're happy to. Our goal is to help folks. We are not a typical capitalist American company that's goal to make the most money off of everything that you can do. Our goal is to be able to survive comfortably with a reasonable margin while we provide solutions that help people have better lives. And
Nice.
that's a good goal.
It's a great goal. What is the Indie Lift retail for currently?
So we've been wobbling back and forth, but the Indie Lift, the base unit that picks you up from the floor and picks you up to a seated height is around $800 right now, which
Okay,
is $1,000 cheaper than it was a year ago because we now have offshore manufacturing so that we can accomplish those prices.
perfect.
And so you take that price approximately, and then you take $100 off, and somebody really is able to have one of these things at home for $750, and they will use it over and over for years to come. And it's one of the best investments for anybody who's trying to stay home and
Yeah.
you're falling.
And if people have a home care business or a community or that needs this type of thing too to save their professional caregivers back, I think this would be a wise investment for them. And you have some commercial products of too.
That's correct, and we're specifically focusing on assisted living and continuing care,
Care.
residential
Okay.
communities. Those places, they're struggling to get people up because they're afraid to get hurt and to hurt the people. So they're calling 911, which means we have this epidemic of 911 calls for people for lift assists. And if all of these facilities had just one of these machines there, they wouldn't have to call 911 because the people
No.
could pick themselves up and solve the problem. And so we're working towards that. And in the future, everywhere that you house people that of these 65 million baby boomers that are getting older right now, uh,
Mm.
all the places that house those people and take care of them are going to have the tools that they need to care for them. And falling is something that is real, and we can address that now.
We can address it. So good. So good. Well, you mentioned some of the things that you do for your personal self-care, like playing the guitar. Do you play for fun or do you play events or tell me
Well,
about,
so I'm as a musician all of my life. I didn't want to be a starving musician, so I found a way to make a living as a technology person. But then I got into the winery business in 2004
did you say
because of
wine?
wine business. And
Okay.
so in 2004, I got into the winery business because I owned a property that was right between two big wineries. And I ended up having to get licensing to do the right sort of thing. And so I became the singing winemaker. So I solved my wine enthusiast kind of thing by becoming a winemaker, and I solved my music thing by becoming the singing winemaker. There are 11,487 wineries in the United States of America, and there's only one singing winemaker, and that's me.
Well, where do we find this? Where do we
That's in
visit you?
Livermore, California. But you can actually find the singing winemaker on the web, and there's lots of people that have posted me playing songs with them, singing in the tasting room. And
Ah,
I have more. I have my picture on more refrigerators than you know, because everybody that comes into the winery on their birthday, we sing them songs and they sing along with us and they take a picture with the singing winemaker. So I'm famously on refrigerators across the country. But
I love that. Do you have a website for your business, the Singing
sure,
Wine?
sure.
What?
The singing winemaker is thesingingwinemaker.com. And
Okay.
and we have a small little boutique winery, and we have little events, and we focus on a number of different kind of non-traditional red wines with sweets
Love
and
it.
blends and fun things, and it's just a lifestyle thing, which is it's a beautiful thing, and people enjoy it and appreciate it, and it gives me an opportunity to share my music as well. So
Yes, yes. Have you written
there's
any
lots of
songs that came from your caregiving experience?
No, I'm not really a song composer. There's so much good music out there that I can't play enough of the music. And every time I find a new song, I wish I could learn. I learn songs regularly, but I've got a few hundred in my repertoire.
Oh,
But
that's a
I don't
lot.
have time to write new ones. I just play the ones that are part of our psyche, right? And we've
That's
built the
amazing.
songs, so that's it's kind of an ancillary thing, but it's how I keep sanity in my world of busyness between caregiving, which I don't do so much now because both of my parents are now gone. But between all the things I do and running this business to help
Sure.
other folks, we're working on it.
I love that. I love that you have this thing that fills your cup up literally with wine. What's your favorite wine, by the way?
Well, I like medium body red wines, and so we
Yeah,
have, lots of good things, and I make a number of blends, and so we have
I love a
melody.
blend.
We have wines that are called melody and harmony and
Ah,
sforzando, which are musical terms, and so that's again another little thing that makes our winery different than others is we're not focused on traditional wine verbiage. We made our own path to do something a little differently, and we celebrate truth, beauty, and goodness through wine music, and art.
I love it. Truth, beauty, and goodness through wine, music, and art. Um, So cool. Very cool. Well, I'll have to also, I'll put in the show notes, but I have a caregiver anthem playlist that I created. Like I hear songs and they make me think of caregiving and remind me. So I have a playlist that I put together that I'll add into the show notes. And, you know, what I love to see, you know, your experience in this invention, but you're in what we also call the age tech space. Do you, which is a growing area where people are inventing things. But what kinds of challenges are you facing in this age tech space for older adults and people who need assistance?
So I have found my calling, so to speak. I was a technology person for 30 years, 35 years. And then I got into this solving the problem of lifting people up. And now I've made it, or God made it my challenge to successfully bring this product to market and help millions of people have a better and more independent life. And so I don't really pay much attention to solutions outside of the space of falling because it's taking all of my time and more. But
Gotcha.
I think in and of itself, if you were to look at my legacy at the end of my life, all the things I did that were great for this or that were nothing compared to creating a solution that helps people stay at home.
Yeah.
And that's just the most gratifying thing
Nice.
you can imagine.
I love it. I love it. Well, we talked a lot about what you're doing for your self-care, but we've got to get your thoughts on some of the questions from the daily self-care journal. So I'm going to ask you a couple things. We'll see what comes to mind for you, Steve. Um, let's see. If your best friend asked you what to do to relieve stress, you would tell them to what?
Take a chill pill. We have chill pills now. They call them gummies, and there's chill pills available all over the country. And take a chill pill and relax a little bit, and go to your happy place. The happy place is something that people forget about. What is your
Yep.
happy?
Yep. And there's CBD gummies and THC gummies and Delta, depending on what state you live in, which ones are available to you. I know you're
Available?
in California. You have more available probably than we have
Pretty
here
much
in
everything.
Georgia. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much
But
everything available. But it's I have horrible experience with people and alcohol, so I could never recommend somebody to do something like that.
mm,
but but I have experience with these gummies that makes people sleep better. It gives them calmness, and it's there's real help out there that doesn't cost much and is actually acceptable technology.
yeah, yeah. True, true. Um, what's your latest go-to quick and healthy meal?
I do a lot of salads, but I'm really a sushi fan because it's fresh my healthy meal is some sashimi with half an avocado and a little bit of brown rice and some wasabi to spice it up.
Yum, yum. Do you have a place you go nearby or do you make it at home?
No, I go to a place nearby, and interestingly enough, I've been in sushi restaurants all over the planet, and one that's just 3 miles from my house has got some of the best sushi that exists anywhere on the planet. So I'm very lucky that I have my favorite kind of food and a favorite kind of place just moments from my home.
Nice. That's great. That's so good. Okay, last question is what oh sorry, your favorite daily ritual is? Like what's something you do daily that's like a ritual for you?
Mm, I don't really have any daily rituals. My my day gets so full so quick with all of the different things that I have going on that I try to play my guitar every day. So
Okay.
that's right. So that is something I try to do. If I get a few minutes of that,
Where do you find
then
the best place to squeeze that in?
at nighttime just before bed.
Okay. Kind of
Yeah,
chillax a little bit, get your
yeah.
guitar
There's so
out.
many good songs, and so I sing songs to my wife. And so after 26 years, she still listens. So I guess it's okay.
I love that. I love that you and I have been married about the same amount of time. So I think I'm going on 28 years this year.
Well, congratulations.
So exciting. Is there anything else that you would like to say to caregivers or anything that you wish that we talked about that we didn't? Anything else you'd want to add, Steve?
Well, the caregivers are the angels of the humans. And there's not that many people that will step up to the plate and truly become a caring caregiver and take care of their people. Have families that they don't interact with. They are afraid they might be obligated to do something for them. But the people that are really caregivers are really the angels in human form. And I'm so happy to help those folks do a better job and a safer job taking care of those in their charge.
Nice. Nice. Thank you so much for that. And how do people stay in touch and find out more about your product and what you've got, Steve?
Indeelift.com, INDEELIFT.com. And we have videos and we can show you how to work, how to solve the problems and what it
And
takes
see
to
it in
do it.
action.
Yep,
Yeah,
in fact.
it's perfect. We'll keep making music and sipping wine and just yeah, enjoying your after caregiving years, because you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot and now you're still helping everybody in this space. So thank you so much for what you offer, Steve.
Thank you for recognizing that. I appreciate you having me here and allowing me to tell our story.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.